You are listening to Middle East Monitor Conversations, bringing you lively discussions with prominent voices from the region and beyond, as we delve deeper into issues shaping the Middle East and North Africa, from politics, the culture, and the arts.
Hello, and welcome to a conversation with the Middle East Monitor. My name is Naseem Ahmed, and I will be your host today. We have a wonderful guest lined up today, joining us all the way from Hebron, Palestine, Issa Amro. We will be discussing resistance, Palestinian resistance, and I think very few people typify this better than Issa, who's been resisting Israeli occupation for many, many decades. So I'm really pleased to have Issa on our show today. Issa, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, you are the co-founder of the grassroots youth organization called Youth Against Settlements. You spent many years advocating for the use of non-violent resistance and civil disobedience, combating Israeli occupation. And in 2010, Issa, you was also declared by the UN as the Human Rights Defender of the Year in Palestine. So it's quite a remarkable achievement. I myself met you a number of times. Once, I don't know if you remember, we gave a talk together at the UN Human Rights Council. We were on a panel with Richard Falk. I don't know if you remember. So that was the first time I met you. It was a wonderful occasion. You live in Hebron. You are, I think, in Hebron right now. Which is a microcosm of the ethnic cleansing and apartheid that we hear so much about and see on our TV. Tell us what it's like living there. You are there right now. I think you have Israeli forces behind you, occupation forces. Tell us what it's like living in Hebron.
Yes, I'm happy to talk to you and to the audience from Hebron, the city where you can see segregation, separation, apartheid, and the real image of the Israeli occupation and the Israeli settlements. Behind me now, you can hear the background noise. The Israeli settlers and the Israeli soldiers, they have a party in Hebron, very close to our center and my house in Tel Rumeda. As Palestinians, we're not allowed to do so. If I do this kind of parties, they will prevent the audience from coming in. Today, I had a friend who was, trying to visit me from Tulkarem, the north of, West Bank. The Israeli soldiers refused to let her pass from the checkpoint, and they said that she's not allowed to enter. On the other hand, Israeli settlers from all over and even from abroad, they come and they try to change the identity of our own city. I was born in this neighborhood in the old city of Hebron. All my life is here. I have a lot of memories. What hurts me most, Naseem, that they are trying to remove my identity as a Palestinian in my lifetime. So they are changing the names of the streets, changing the names of the neighborhoods from Palestinian Arabic names to an Israeli Hebrew names. As a Palestinian, I'm not allowed now to visit the house where I was born. I can see it, but I'm not allowed to visit the house, in spite that as a family, we still own it. Not only me. Many other Palestinian families, they are suffering the same. In Hebron city, we have around 1,800 shops closed because of the closure policy. We have around 1,000 Palestinian apartments became empty because of the ethnic cleansing and the continuous forced displacement. So the Palestinians suffered from Nakba 74 years ago. And we say in Hebron and many other places in Jerusalem and Area C, many other places in West Bank, that Palestinians are facing continuous ethnic cleansing and forced displacement and apartheid. And in Hebron, we have around 22 checkpoints restricting the movement of the Palestinian people only. The settlers are freely walking around without any kind of even questioning. We have around 100 movement barriers in less than 1 kilometer square. That made the city as a ghost town. Many Palestinian families left. Now 43% of the families left the city, and the shops, 77% of the shops are closed because of the Israeli army. And by time they try to take one house, another house, and another house, and make Palestinian families give up their sumud, their resistance,
Yeah.
and to stay and remain, and it's their steadfastness. And
Yeah.
he tried to kill the spirit of our beliefs that we, the Palestinians, we have the right to live in equality, justice, and freedom.
Can you quickly update us with the latest news regarding Hebron? While Shireen Abu Akleh was being, her funeral procession was being attacked, we saw videos and pictures of settlers, families occupying a Palestinian flat, a big, massive Palestinian flat, I think 6 or 7 families, walking in with their mattresses and everything. What's the situation with that now? There was the soldiers were protecting the settlers as well. So what's the situation with that now?
We were mourning Shireen. Shireen was here many times, made a lot of reports. Palestinians saw Shireen as a hero, and everybody was crying. I can tell you that no Palestinian house, was not really affected about the killing of Shireen. Everybody was mourning. Everybody was almost crying. And we saw the brutality of how they, attacked her funeral in Jerusalem. And we were emotionally, completely disturbed as Palestinians. In the meantime, you see settlers breaking into a Palestinian building, claiming that, they own it. And the Israeli army is escorting it. Then in the next day, they arrest the neighbors who tried to prevent them from the expansion. And then they say, Israel is now, it's defending itself. Israel is not defending itself. Israel is defending its occupation, defending its apartheid, and defending its segregation and ongoing transfer of the Palestinian people. This is what is happening on the ground for the Palestinian people.
But many MEMO readers, of course, from Europe, America, and the West, I don't think we really appreciate what it's like living under Israeli occupation 24 hours a day. Because as we know, Israel presents itself to the West as a normal country. We're just another country, like the US, like France. But Israel is not like any other country. It's been occupying Palestine for many, many decades. At what age, that goes for all Palestinians, I assume, at what age did you become conscious of the persecution, you are being subjected to? As a Palestinian, when do you realize occupation is all around you and become aware and conscious of this?
First, the international community and everybody on earth now, they are angry of Russia for a few months of invasion of Ukraine. So Israel is occupying us since 74 years and even stealing our identity. And we as Palestinians are stateless and without any basic human rights. Me personally, my family didn't want me to be a political activist. My family lost, we lost our grandfather on the 50s. The Israelis killed my grandfather, in the 50s. My father didn't want me to do any kind of politics, but you can't. It's not about that. It's an option for you to be an activist or to be aware of what is happening. I was studying hard. I was trying, to be a good student, and earn my degree as kind of resistance. Many Palestinians think that education is one of the resistance tools, to be empowered, to be able to resist the Israeli occupation, because they attack our education as well, and they don't want us to have a good education. So first thing happened to me was the Ibrahim Mosque massacre. 1994, when I was in the school, we lost one of the students who was playing with me every morning football. So that made me really awake what is happening around. Baruch Goldstein went into the Ibrahim Mosque, killed 29 Palestinians, and hundreds were injured. And the result of that massacre, that I didn't go to my school for 3 months. They divided the streets, they closed the markets. All the closure in Hebron started 1994 after the Ibrahim Mosque massacre. That made me aware that there is something very wrong coming from the occupation toward me. Then I continued, my life, and I went to university in Hebron. I was studying electrical engineering. 2003, in my last year, and I was studying very hard, really, very, very hard to get good, marks in engineering. And one day I went to my campus. I found my university closed by the Israeli army. They sealed the gates, they closed the doors, and they told us that the university is closed for good. I got crazy. I got very angry. I said, oh my God, even, my degree where I want to, really be, I worked very hard to get it. And for me, it was the beginning of me to become a rebel, to become a real activist. And in the beginning, it was for me, for my education. I was really working, campaigning to get my degree, me and my other students. Hopefully, I won with other students, and I graduated from university as an engineer and as an activist. And from that time, I told myself that I should work for my people cause and go on with non-violence resistance to increase the cost of the Israeli occupation and Israeli apartheid.
So what are the kind of things you would do? I mean, was Youth Against Settlements the first globally recognized organization that you set up, or were there other groups that you had set up prior to that? So when did you organize with other Palestinians against the occupation?
In the beginning, we were, a group of students, and we were going around to fight the Israeli apartheid wall in the Palestine, in Green Line, in Hebron villages. Then we started another, committee in the old city of Hebron, 2004. Then we were very active in South Mount Hebron. And 2007, I decided to start a Palestinian group. And the main goal of this group is to recruit Palestinian youth to non-violence resistance and to target the main pillar of the Israeli occupation, which is the Israeli settlement, which is a war crime according to Geneva Convention Article 49. And we started the campaigning. We do 5 main things. First, we do documentation, and we teach the families to document the human rights violations using their smart devices or the video cameras. We do direct action, sit-ins, rallies. We do tours, and we do advocacy to increase the awareness for the international community, for the Palestinian people about apartheid and segregation in Hebron. We do a lot of legal work. We do a lot of community work. We try to bring the community together. We try to do maintenance to the houses. We try to really stay, close to the families. And we do kind of international advocacy by, calling, to participate in open Shuhada State campaign to really make, the international community active, by direct actions in their communities in the anniversary of the Ibrahimi Mosque massacre. We do olive harvest campaign, as this olive, behind me. We do some kind of escorting the kids to the school. We do, from time to time, we do activities here or there to really defend our identity and to increase the awareness about the Israeli apartheid and the Israeli occupation. And now we are, trying to, plan a campaign against the Israeli apartheid. We want to show the real image of Israel as an apartheid country.
So are you getting a lot of demands for that? Because as we know, human rights organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, B'Tselem, so many others have labeled Israel an apartheid state over the last year. So have you had more demands for tours from the West and elsewhere to really understand apartheid in Israel? Because Hebron really is the best place to go in some ways to understand what Israel apartheid really looks like. So have you had a lot of demands for that since the publication of those reports?
Naseem, we as Palestinians, we were busy mourning Shireen Abu Akleh, who was killed by the Israeli occupation. Everybody on earth was busy with the pandemic, with coronavirus. And the Israeli occupation were busy taking our land and suppressing us. So in the last 3 years, we were busy as Palestinians to protect our health, to protect our people. And we were, following the international medical standards, not to have any gathering, not to travel, and to be with a minimum, public, publicity. So from now we will start. We got many demands, but this is the first few months that coronavirus restriction lifted. So we will start traveling around and trying to really make apartheid expensive and costly for the Israeli occupation.
I wondered if I could ask you about your form of resistance. As we know, resistance is a right enshrined under international law. Morally, it's also a right which every human being has. Why did you choose, as you say, peaceful resistance as the means of resisting Israeli apartheid? What prompted you? When did you make that decision? What prompted you to do that?
When they closed my university, I went to do a kind of search, and I did something, how to make a revolution. I wanted to make a revolution to get my degree in a scene. Really, it was for me something so big not to get my degree. And fortunately, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, many other ideas came to me how to make a revolution. And for me, in the beginning, it was a tactic to use non-violent resistance as a way to increase the cost of the Israeli occupation. And non-violent resistance for us, and I discovered that Palestinians used a lot non-violent resistance. In the 30s, we had the longest strike, ever in history. In the first Intifada, the majority of the first Intifada was really non-violent resistance. And in the 90s, we had the non-violent resistance against the apartheid wall, and many villages all over West Bank. Until now, they do non-violent resistance. And we, as a group in Youth Against Settlement, we wanted to choose this type of resistance to increase the cost of the Israeli occupation for many reasons. First, we wanted to engage all Palestinian youth to use this kind of methodology. The occupation, you saw the occupation brutality with Shireen just lately, and with us. It happened to me many times. I was beaten, ill-treated, arrested by the Israeli occupation. Not only me, many other Palestinians. And by the way, all form of resistance according to the Israeli military law are not allowed. So non-violent resistance according to the Israeli military system is not allowed. I was arrested, ill-treated. They tried me and they convicted me in the Israeli military court for my non-violent resistance. Not only me, many other Palestinians were indicted and convicted, and they are in jail because of non-violent resistance. But the killing of Shireen was not coincident like that. They tried to shut off the Palestinian voices. They don't want Palestinians to speak, to increase awareness about that we as Palestinians deserve to work very hard to increase the cost of the Israeli occupation and apartheid. Imagine, man, that I am here, few meters from me, settlers and soldiers. I am under the Israeli military law. I'm not allowed to any kind of general assembly as a Palestinian. I am not allowed. I'm guilty till I'm proven innocent. The settlers who are living few meters from me, they are active from here, are under the Israeli civilian law. So we have two sets of law for different people in the same area. So what is that? It's really apartheid. And legally, I am like this. I live without any rights. And I don't. I can't get an ambulance here, dude. If I need an emergency now, ambulance is not allowed to come to my place now without a special coordination, visitors, food, maintenance. It's really crazy life for Palestinians. At the end of the day, we are labeled as terrorists, and the occupation, which is the main source of violence and the main generator of violence, they describe it as democracy and as a country which is respecting the international law. And everybody now is against Russia, and they forget Israel, and they forget the Israeli occupation and the Israeli apartheid.
So how long, you mentioned the ambulance, so God forbid something happened there right now. So how long would an ambulance take to come to you, and how long will an ambulance take to go to an Israeli settlement?
The settlers will take them 2-3 minutes. They will reach them within the golden minutes. We don't talk about golden minutes. We talk about hours. So in emergency cases you skip it. And sometimes even they don't allow you. And even if they allow the ambulance, I documented many times by video camera Palestinian ambulance being attacked by Israeli settler stones, and sometimes it was delayed for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the checkpoint after getting the permit to come into the area. So you forget the ambulance here.
Mm-hmm. If I can just ask you a broader question about the peaceful form of resistance you've been carrying out for many, many decades. Yours isn't the only one. There's been so many Palestinian hunger strikes. There's also, of course, the BDS movement, boycott, divestment, sanctions movement, which is under so much attack in the West. So when people say, as is often said, where is the Palestinian Gandhi? Meaning, the Palestinians only resist through violence. But no, there's a culture of peaceful Palestinian resistance, which is crackdown by Israeli occupation forces, which is also denied a voice here in the West. So what do you say to people when they say, where is the Palestinian Gandhi, when you yourself and so many others have been peacefully protesting for many, many decades?
We, the Palestinians, are professional using non-violent resistance. And we do, non-violent resistance from the 30s. And the first Intifada is an example of how Palestinian women were, leading that Intifada. And one of the best example is Beit Sahur and the 18 cows, where the occupation, and there is a film, the wanted 18 cows, how the Palestinians were doing it in the 80s before even the first Intifada. Palestinians, it's part of our culture to resist the occupation using popular resistance and non-violence resistance. And we hope to reach civil disobedience, but we live almost in jail. We as Palestinians, we don't have any kind of violent tools. What are you talking about? I can't leave my city Hebron without passing checkpoints. I can't leave West Bank without passing Israeli borders. So we are importing, exporting. They control all aspects of our life. The occupation is not only soldiers. They control what we import, what we export, what kind of technology we get as Palestinians. So we are living in a big jail as Palestinians. It's not a small, example here or there. No. So Palestinians were resisting. I am resisting. Each woman living in Masafer Yatta now, where they want to really displace the Palestinians and cleanse them from their homes. Each woman staying, remaining, is doing non-violence resistance. Each family living in Hebron, in H2 in Hebron, is doing, non-violence resistance, because existence first and steadfastness is a resistance for us to stay and remain and to stay, with your spirit of refusing the occupation and asking for equality and justice and freedom is not easy. They want the Palestinians to accept and to coexist with the status quo that the occupation is a fact. We don't want that. And majority of the Palestinians, they refuse that, and they will continue refusing. And we don't give up our rights. It's a kind of resistance. The protests, rallies, the BDS, many other activities in West Bank. It's all over. But the media doesn't give us a special or an enough coverage to talk about, what we do as Palestinians. Look to the killing of Shireen. Shireen was a journalist doing non-violence resistance because she was trying to raise the Palestinian voices and to really expose the Israeli violence, brutality, and apartheid. And many others, hundreds and thousands of Palestinians are doing the kind of resistance, but we need our resistance to be highlighted, appreciated, admired, protected by the international community, not to be labeled as terrorists and not to be blacklisted and isolated from the international community, as what happened to the 6 Palestinian human rights organization. The oldest human rights organization in the Middle East, Al-Haq, is labeled as a terrorist organization. I am labeled as a terrorist. Issa Amro, who's calling for non-violence, I'm labeled as a terrorist. And they say that I'm I don't know what, all this kind of things. So Israel doesn't distinguish between any kind of resistance, and they want the Palestinians to give up their rights, to accept, to leave their country without even shouting. But as you see, Palestinians don't give up. They will continue fighting till we make the occupation costly for the occupier, and civil disobedience, I hope it's coming soon.
I know many Palestinians here in the UK and also in Palestine, and I don't know any Palestinian who is not resisting occupation in some shape or form. I don't even think it's possible to be Palestinian without resisting in some way, given how Israel tries to erase Palestinian history, tries to erase Palestinian identity. So some would say it's not possible to be Palestinian without resisting. It makes no sense. What would you say to that?
Yeah, man, we resist on social media. Every tweet we write, it's a big deal. Every Facebook post, censorship in Facebook, censorship in Instagram, censorship on Twitter. So the occupation really try to stop us from doing any kind of resistance. But we as Palestinians, When we eat, we resist the occupation. When we play, when we go, when we go to universities, we made the occupation, resistance, a routine, part of our lifestyle. And not only in Palestine, in Gaza, the Gazans are doing a great resistance of their sumud and resilience and be creative. Not in Gaza only, the refugees all over West Bank, all over the Arab countries and all over the world. Every time I travel abroad, I meet Palestinians. They do something for Palestine, and they will not stop that. And they teach their children and the second and the third generation, the refugees all over the world. Right of return still exists, and we muret Nakba in spite of all the laws, all the brutality of the occupation, to erase our history and to erase our rights. We are a great nation that we are able until now to keep the Palestinian cause alive in spite of everything happened to us and all that bias blind support to Israel.
If I may ask, just finish with this last question, because we are running out of time. Comparing the changes in presidency in the US. At the time of Trump, of course, he supported the settlements. He made so many concessions to Israel. And then Biden came in pledging to be supportive of human rights issues around the world and also to oppose settlements as well. So governments come and go in Washington, in London, in various parts of Europe. They make different emphasis on their support for settlements and Palestinian resistance. Does anything really change on the ground? Biden's come in. Has anything really changed for you on the ground, even though he's pushed an anti-settlement agenda? Does anything really change despite what we see in the West, in the rhetoric with regards to Israel? And now also we know human rights organizations have labeled Israel an apartheid state. Is there any change in behavior? Do you see any changes in the ground when there are changes in politics in the West?
Unfortunately, Biden reversed everything Trump did except, Palestine, laws and what he did, So Biden administration didn't reverse, moving the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Biden administration didn't reverse Trump decision to close the PLO office in DC. Trump and Biden administration didn't really reopen the American consulate in East Jerusalem. Biden administration didn't give back the aid, to the Palestinian people, and they continue with a $3.8 billion to Israel. And not only that, blind political support and backup for everything they do. And even they attack Human Rights Watch, Human Rights Report. They attacked Amnesty International Human Rights Report. So as Palestinians, we don't see a big difference between Biden and Trump. Even Biden talked a lot, but in the ground, we see more settlements, more military brutality, and more settlements and more violence toward the Palestinians. We believe that international public opinion is growing with us, and we are winning the public. And I want to thank you and thank all people who are working to support the Palestinian cause all over the world. And their work is amazing when we feel it and we see it, and it encourages us to stay strong. They give us the energy to continue when we see many people who are, really protesting and writing and showing us emotions and support and donating some money for the cause. So that made us strong, and it made us continue. And we know that this great, big public opinion one day will be transformed to be political support and political official support to the Palestinian people. I see it soon. I see it very close. We are almost there, but we need to work a little bit harder with our politicians, with our political, spectrum, and try to make changes, and try to really put high pressure on our governments and their representatives all over the world to tell them Palestinians deserve to live equally and to live with their freedom, and they deserve their self-determination.
On that note, Issa, I want to thank you for joining the Middle East Monitor for MEMO Conversation. It's been a pleasure hosting you. I hope our viewers at home who've tuned in have enjoyed listening to you speak. No doubt we'll be in touch again. There's lots happening in Hebron and Palestine, and you are a constant feature when it comes to what is happening in Palestine, in particular in Hebron. I hope you all the best and stay safe. And those at home have tuned in, thank you for joining us, and see you all soon. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
This was Middle East Monitor Conversations, brought to you by the Middle East Monitor in London.